Good morning. Welcome to the News Hub. I'm Rolf Winkler. President Obama certainly feels he got a lot of leverage winning the election. That's if fiscal cliff negotiations are any guide. The president's opening bid in negotiations has been a very provocative, his set of demands. Janet Hook now joins us from Washington to discuss them. Janet, good morning.
Good morning.
So this has prompted Speaker Boehner to really dial back a lot of his optimism. I want to play a soundbite for you first.
First, despite the claims that the president supports a balanced approach, the Democrats have yet to get serious about real spending cuts. And secondly, no substantive progress has been made in the talks between the White House and the House over the last 2 weeks. Listen, this is not a game.
Janet, what is the president asking for?
Well, the proposal that they discussed yesterday, what happened was Treasury Secretary Geithner went to the Hill to meet separately with each of the four congressional leaders, the most important being Speaker Boehner. And he talked about the president's demand that what he wanted was $1.6 trillion in tax cuts over 10 years, about $400 billion in entitlement and Medicare savings, and a host of other things, including a proposal to basically make it easier to raise the federal debt limit, $50 billion in economic stimulus money. So that's spending, not cutting spending. It was kind of the president's wish list. None of them were really surprising coming from the president. These are things that he's asked for before. But I think what took the Republicans back is they thought that this was the time for President Obama to start making concessions, not bring his wish list.
Okay, now, has anyone spoken about cuts of any kind yet, really detailed some of them?
Well, I mean, the president's proposal did include some cuts, but not many details. He talked about deferring the automatic spending cuts that are about to take effect, deferring them for a year, and then having some offsetting cuts of an unspecified sort. It was thought that some of them might include the Farm Bill, savings in farm subsidies. And as I said, he did propose $400 billion in Medicare and other entitlement cuts, but didn't say how. The assumption was they were mostly the kinds of proposals that he had in his budget plan, which were, in the case of Medicare, mostly cuts to providers of health care, not the beneficiaries.
But Republicans make an interesting point here that those cuts don't actually really address Medicare's really structural problems, for instance, by raising the eligibility age for retirees.
Right, but I think neither side thinks that those kinds of issues are going to be addressed like just in the abstract right now by itself. Those kind of structural changes will be part of a bigger, broader negotiation that I think both Republicans and Democrats are aiming to have next year, which would involve both overhauling the tax code and reforming entitlements.
Now, Janet, there's not much longer before Congress goes away for Christmas, and there's some Democrats that make an interesting point here that maybe going over the cliff would be a good idea, and to the extent it actually gives Republicans a little bit of leverage. Of course, they've signed Grover Norquist's tax pledge. If you go over the cliff, all the taxes go up, so anything after that is technically a tax cut. I mean, does that maybe give us an impetus to just go ahead and go over the cliff and then dial it back really quickly after in early January?
I don't think so. And I think most people think that if we went over the cliff, it would undercut the Republicans' leverage. I think that neither side really wants to go over the cliff. And if I had to guess now, I don't think we will, because whatever you can game out about tactical political positioning, people really do worry that it'll rattle the markets and not be good for the economy. So I just think that when people talk about being ready to go over the cliff, it's a matter of leverage in the current negotiations to avoid it.
Okay, Janet, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
You bet.
And stay with WSJ Live for Fiscal Cliff coverage. We'll have all your updates throughout the month of December.